for folks who don't know, the Free State Project is a movement of voluntary human action where we are trying to concentrate libertarians in the state of New Hampshire.
I think we've done more in the last decade than every other libertarian movement combined has accomplished in the last 5 decades.
Are my friends and my neighbors who are willing to stand against tyranny, make their voices heard, and have a goddamn impact.
We have a problem where too many people are afraid to say what they believe in, but they'll actually do something about it. If you're afraid to stand outside the TSA line and piss off 97% of people who are waiting to just take the arm builder up their ass in 5 seconds, then you're probably not ever going to make the change.
Free State Project, again, it's 1% of the Free State movement.
I am a friend of the Free State Project.
And would you encourage people to check it out?
Absolutely. Check it out. Find out. If you like it, join and continue the effort.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the Free State Live podcast. Sorry for the delay. We were having a little bit of a technical issue. Without further ado, I will bring your hosts to the stage. We got Carla Gericke, perennial, awesome New Hampshire resident and immigrant and activist and just like all around intelligent and articulate and clever author.
I'm just going to let you keep talking.
She's one of the ideas people here, you know. She's if you hear Carla coming in with an idea out of left field, wait about 2 minutes and you'll see it wrap into like everything else that happened.
Oh yeah, no, I always have a point, and today's point is your little history lesson is the 420 every day 420, because this week is 420. So I'm going to wear a historic shirt when I come, and then show you guys that we've done some activism and we get to build, and I'm so excited for everyone who's coming in because, we can only go up. Tyranny is sort of the game in the rest of the world, and we're just going to become this awesome, amazing free state.
Live free and thrive. And we'll bring Justin O'Donnell to the stage here.
How's
Justin,
it going?
Good to see you. Also,
I apologize for the technical difficulties and the delay. Apparently, I've angered some people on Twitter this week, and they're trying to take it out on the Free State Project.
No, it's all fine, Justin. Nothing to apologize for. You're good. And we brought today for a new mover spotlight a couple that moved here about 7 months ago or something, and it's Tyler and Sara Brown, and they're great, and they're here to tell their story because they moved up here. And they fit really well into the community. They've had a great time. They seem to be loving it. We'll see. They might be airing all their complaints for all I know.
No.
They're here to sell all their dirty secrets, tell you how terrible
just their
it
dirty
is.
laundry.
Tyler and Sara, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So you guys moved up here, in November?
Yep, the day before Thanksgiving. Was when we closed on our house, but Tyler had been living here for a few months prior to work.
Middle of September, I started a job outside of Concord.
So I was living as a single mom of our 3 kids in New York and coming up here on weekends to look for a house, which we all know is a competitive
in this market.
Yeah.
So maybe tell folks, I think one of the really important things, and I love talking to new movers, and I love that I got to kind of meet you guys on the journey as you guys came in. That doesn't always happen. But I think it's so important for new people to tell the people who are going to come next, like, hey, here it is. Like, this is kind of what we experienced, because we all know the more information you have, the better decisions you can make and figure it out. And I know for me, we didn't even have kids, but, it was also like this frontier thing where Louis came ahead and, I was wrapping up, and then, I came, and then he had to get a job in Vermont for a while. And, we were separated. He's up there and I was down here. And I think the point to that is just that, sacrifices have to be made, but we're all thinking sort of long term. So you, mommy, with your 3 kids, had Monday to Friday, and then you would come up to New Hampshire on over the weekend. And so what did the job market look like? Like, what would a Saturday and Sunday typically look like while you guys were searching?
Before I answer that question, I just have to say it was totally worth it. We're really glad to be here, and it really, truly was worth it. Was worth the difficulty of being there Monday through Friday. So the the search, the question was, what was the search like?
Yeah, the market's really competitive. We knew that. We had a house that was sought after also in New York, so we kind of saw both sides of it, selling high and buying high, kind of. So we were kind of prepared for it, I think, but it was pretty competitive. If you weren't ready to give a lot more money than what they were asking for, you weren't going to get the house. And so our expectations had morphed a little bit. We were kind of looking for a forever home right away. And then we realized that that wouldn't be the best financial decision for us. So we altered our search a lot during the process of looking at different houses, looking at different neighborhoods, looking at different proximities to my job, proximities to all these other things that we had found that we wanted to be part of here in New Hampshire. So
yeah,
like what are some of those things, just to sort of, because New Hampshire is so unique in the sense that we have, you know, the bigger cities, but then you can have such a different experience depending on where you are. So close to jobs, obviously, because gas prices. Hello.
Yeah, I pretty particularly don't want to spend a lot of time commuting, so that was a pretty big one. The original search was a 5-mile circle around my job. Okay. We want to buy a house here so I could ride a bike every day, but it wasn't all that feasible with what was available.
And we did put offers on 8 houses, and we got the 8th one. So it's our 8th choice, but it has, yeah, we got it. We're here, and it's so we were looking for like more of a residential neighborhood where our kids could ride bikes and run to the neighbors and stuff. So what we chose was a little more urban, but also we're finding we have a really nice fenced in yard. We have a lot of free staters that are super close to us and willing to walk or drive over. And so we, you know, we are making use of the neighborhood. We try to walk. We live really close to the Quill. That's been helpful. And another thing that eased our transition, something we had talked about earlier, was coming up on the weekends, was that our realtor, another free stater, really understood where we were coming from, and we didn't have to explain a lot of things. So when we did come up here, it was already like coming home, even though we were staying in someone else's house. And and
actually explain that, because I think that part wasn't explained yet. So someone opened their home to you, or what? Like, because you were here, and Tyler, you were. She was in New York. You were here. You were staying with free staters, or what did that look like?
Yep. I accepted the job. They really wanted me to work there, so they gave me 6 weeks to move. Yeah. We both then got COVID in that 6 weeks and didn't move at all. Didn't pack a single box and didn't. And then like 6 weeks later, we're like, holy crap, we got to sell the house.
And got fired from our jobs in that 6 weeks too.
Yeah, so it was a pretty hectic little time there. And so I found a job that I wanted with, you know, the things I wanted out of a job. And that was right outside of Concord. And we went to one new movers potluck. And Sarah went on the microphone, introduced our whole family to everybody, and from there the ball just rolled and rolled and rolled. And within 5 days, I had a beautiful bedroom in a nice house for a very, very reasonable rent from a friend, and like an instant friend. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so it was our realtor, a free stater, set us up with another couple that had just moved from California with their family, and so they opened their home up to us right off the bat. Like, they had only been there for say 3 months, and they let us come stay at their house, and we are eternally grateful. And it was really fun.
Well, I think that's actually something fascinating to talk about that a lot of people don't realize when they're thinking about moving for the Free State Project, is how quickly and easily people integrate here. I've moved a lot. Like, I was in the military for 8 years. I grew up moving a lot. And like, even after I got out of the Army, I moved 4 or 5 times before I moved to New Hampshire for work. And it was always really difficult moving a lot. Like, I'm only 32 and I've lived in 9 different states as an adult. Like, making friends, meeting friends, and getting to establish a social circle wherever you're going, when you don't know anyone to begin with, and you're just like going to bars trying to meet people you have common interest in, is something that's very difficult. Yet I remember when I moved to New Hampshire, the very first thing I saw is somebody said, "Hey, you're political, aren't you? You should come to this meetup on Saturday night at this restaurant in Nashua." And I made friends instantly, and like I had been here for a week before I'd been introduced to the community, and had a bunch of friends. It wasn't normal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the first time we visited, we went to a tap room in January 2021. And that night, 3 different people invited us to come to their house the next day. And we didn't take them up on it because we had other plans. We were kind of just on a vacation, and we were just sort of dipping our toes in the water, so to speak. And,
but when we moved here.
Yeah, we could have had friends. Our kids could have been playing with other kids the very next day.
So I think I met you guys at that tap room, and if I recall correctly, you guys were like sort of in shock at the amount of people who were at this tap room in the middle of like we didn't
hugging
really
and
have
shaking
that level
hands.
of lockdown. But you had said you were like, we can't go to restaurants where we are. We haven't been in a room like with socially like this for a long time.
Yeah, where strangers will hold our kids. It was awesome.
So that tap room was a bit of a clincher, would you say, for you guys?
I was ready to move right then and there.
Wow.
Like I said, and then I continued to look for jobs. My goal was to just like apply to 3 jobs a week and just keep my eye open on anything that really sounded interesting. And I have a pretty specific. I don't want to be at work more than overtime. I have I had a certain set of requirements for a job I was looking for, and so I was only kind of picking and choosing what I was applying to. And I had a couple phone interviews that I didn't really necessarily want to pursue. And then finally I had one person call me on the phone. He's like, "You really want to move to New Hampshire?" I was like, "I really do." It was like a Tuesday. I was like, "I can come on Friday. I'll just call out of work. I'll get a hotel on Thursday. Like I could be there Friday. This sounds like the job I want." And he's like, "Cool. Yeah, meet us here on Friday." And then I did the interview, and then I went and walked around downtown Concord, got a coffee, and just kind of like was taking in New Hampshire by myself. And they like called me right back and said, "Yeah, you have the job if you want it." So,
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So are you using mostly job sites or a network, LinkedIn?
I was just using Indeed for the most part. Yeah.
LinkedIn?
Indeed.
Indeed. Okay.
Yeah.
So for folks who are watching, that's definitely an option to just, the big sites, you can say software, you could say in which area.
I was looking for a warehouse manager stuff. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of industry. There's a lot of warehouses in the Manchester Concord area. There's a couple industrial parks where I'm working in Pembroke. There's a lot of John Deere has a big place. So there's a lot of warehouse. There was always a lot of warehouse jobs that were popping up when I was looking.
Yeah, Indeed is good. The network's good, and the area is definitely good. Like Southern New Hampshire has a lot of that. There's probably a bunch out further too. But so somebody, I believe it was Mark Warden, said maybe on this podcast, everybody moves twice. First, you move to the Manchester area to make your next 100 friends, and then you move one more time to find your forever home. So that
it feels like exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah. And I think it will be hard to leave Manchester. We've met a lot of really amazing people here.
Yeah, and really for a city, it's walkable. It doesn't even feel like a city. You could commute downtown in no time. It really is quite pleasant. And then, of course, just right around here, Hooksett, Goffstown, a lot of people will contact me and they'll say, "Hey, I don't want to be right in the city, but where is, good?" And really any of the neighborhoods around Manchester and Concord are really great. And it's so pretty here. I mean, you guys are going to see your first spring, but then it's just,
yeah, we're really excited that there still is so many different things here that we haven't done. And we're busy every weekend with activities lined up for the kids and ourselves. And we still haven't done a lot of the things that everyone raves about. So we're really excited for the warm weather.
What is that landscape looking like? I don't know. You don't have to be specific if you want, but are they old enough to go to school, or are you guys still, are you looking at homeschool? Like, what was part of the decision process? I guess you're like, "Oh, I've got 3 kids. What do I do next?"
Yeah. So we have 2 and just about to turn 5. So we'll say 2, 5, and 8 are our kids. And we're not really interested in government school. So that was out. And when we moved to New York, we lived in New York, but when we moved to the town, we had moved to when we first had children, I met everyone through the public library that we were friends with. So everybody went to the public schools, and it was really interesting and really vibrant and awesome and super woke. And then, then we moved, and then we had a baby in February of 2020, and then, the world shit the bed. And that was hard to integrate with all of the children and none of the support anymore. And all those networks that we had built just like totally washed away, and everybody was accepting the Zoom life, and it was really hard for us to cope, wanting to see people's faces and be with people, and desiring a normal childhood for our family. So moving here, going to tap room, that original time, and just having it be normal, and then getting fired, and then coming up here was like
in between Pork Fest.
Right. And then going to Pork Fest and meeting other free range families where there's really not a lot of that in New York. It felt like we came home. Like,
you guys really feel like you belong here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been back to New York since we moved.
Wow. I have twice. My family's pretty awesome, so I've gone.
So you haven't gotten them to move yet?
No, I haven't gotten them to move yet. We'll see.
I like that yet.
Right, come on, yeah. So the landscape, but to finish the question about homeschooling. So yes, we don't want the government involved in raising our children, or the, like we were saying, not Monday through Friday is longer than Saturday and Sunday. So we want to be with our kids all the time. And so we've chosen homeschool, but to outsource a little with Latitude Learning down in Derry, which our two older kids can go to. And it's been amazing. And a safe space. It's a homeschool co-op group that has a physical space. And most of the teachers are parents. But it's like a truly safe space for kids and grown-ups. I've been able to be like my emotional self there and be fully supported. Because, you can't do this alone. It's hard to do.
And I think that's so important, is that network, especially for the families. It's huge.
Yeah. And we jumped right in. And some of the first things we were doing when Tyler was up here, we would try to go to at least one Porcupine event, like one Free State event
on the calendar
every single time I came up.
Nice.
Wow.
And so we met people.
Apple picking, pumpkin maze.
The corn maze.
Right. Hockey.
Yeah. So we did one thing every weekend, and I met friends every time. I got numbers, and when they said, "Can you come over? Do you want to come over?" I always said yes. And I've found a best friend who also has 3 kids, and I feel the love. And
oh, that makes me really happy, because moving is hard, but I think what perhaps we're seeing, because I can feel that you guys are like, yeah, we're really glad, I hope you did this, is that through the community, it's like it makes it easier, right? But we're also living through a shared experience. Everyone is not as lucky as Mr. Bill, who was born and raised here. Some of us have to actually make the choice, but that's both empowering, because you're choosing, right? Like, you are actually sort of manifesting your own destiny. You're saying, this is what I want to do. These are the values that are important to me. These are the things that matter to me. And so one of those values, or one of those things that was important to you guys, is you decided you did not want to be mandated to make a medical choice you weren't comfortable with. So you've sort of alluded to it, but walk us through that story and sort of why that was the final straw.
Did my job fire me first, or yours?
Mine, the writing was on the wall, because I have been a labor and delivery nurse since 2008. And it was an interesting thing for me because it was like my career, and excuse me if I get emotional talking about it, because it really was like a passion, and I was good at it. I really liked it.
Yeah.
And
and you shall return to it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to return in the system though. Like,
that goes without saying.
Right. Thank you for completely shutting me out. You sucked from the start. So
as far as like the writing on the wall, like, did you take any steps like preemptively thinking like, oh, this is gonna happen, or did you talk to people at work? Like, how did you prepare yourself for that? Because I had a similar situation where I built a career in health insurance compliance and sales, and I knew like writing was on the wall. It's like, I am losing my job if I don't get vaccinated. Like, the writing is on the wall here. I worked for one of the largest health insurance companies in the United States, and my way of dealing with it was to just ignore that writing on the wall, pretend it didn't exist, and act confused when it finally happened. Like, what was your process in dealing with that? Because I was already here. Like, I was already here, and I already had a network of Free State friends to fall back on. You're in New York. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, my boss, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of layers. I'm like, what can I say, and what do I not want to say on the internet?
So, her boss called her to tell her that she didn't have a job if you didn't get vaccinated by X date. And so,
were you working at a hospital or
Yes, a labor and delivery center in a hospital in New York City.
And I had been working there for 7 years, and I had given birth to all my children while I was working there. I didn't have them in hospitals, but I was supported by the staff and loved working there, and really was part of the family and cared about the community. And I'd say I was one of the nurses that bridged between units and shifts. And I really, I felt like I belonged there, and it hurt.
Yeah, so when they called, I wasn't there for the call, but I got a pretty full retelling of it. Sara made them write she is not voluntarily resigning, because that was inside the sort of, because they were calling on the phone, so they were signing on behalf of her with the permission over the phone. And Sara, it very explicitly said, I am not resigning. I will not give you permission to put my name. You can write,
this is not a voluntary resignation. And that is one tidbit that I got from a Free State mom visiting up here. She said, I work in HR. Do not sign the paper. Do not let them write that. And so it was another Free State mom who told me I don't remember if it was at a playground or at a restaurant or whatever it was. She said, I think it was a restaurant. It was the crypto meetup. And she said, don't sign the paper. And so she gave me that tidbit. Wow. And I felt like when I got off that phone that I had like knocked it out of the park. Like, wow, yeah, go me. But then, and I said everything I wanted to say. And then I got the letter in the mail that said I was fired and I wasn't allowed on the premises. And I was like, oh, so I didn't win.
Wow.
Small moral.
And did they not allow exceptions?
I mean, you still won.
Or
no exceptions. I think it was something like 2 people were grandfathered in, and they people who had real true religious beliefs, which mine is not religious, and they knew I wasn't religious, but people who really truly were religious and were denied.
This is a great highlight for how awesome New Hampshire is and how terrible New York is. Especially on this thing, is that was a New York State mandate that all healthcare workers needed to be vaccinated.
Oh man!
So I think in New Hampshire,
the employer. Wow.
Nope. So then, when a month later, when my New York license was up for renewal, guess what I did?
Transferred it to New Hampshire.
I did. I have a New Jersey license, but I was like, never again, New York. Will I pay you another fucking cent?
Nice.
That's awesome.
You know what you can do with that license, which is what I told my boss. You know what you can do with that job. And then I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then Tyler, did you have a similar experience, or?
I had already accepted the job up here in New Hampshire. So they announced it. They announced it at this company-wide meeting. It's a Zoom meeting there's like 150, 200 employees, I think, at the company I was working for. And so since I had already put in my resignation letter, I was the only one in the chat going? Are you accepting responsibility for injury? Are you going to do boosters? All these things, and people are private chatting me. Oh, keep it up, and I'm like, well, where are
Then
you?
Speak up.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And that was a month before Biden mandated it. They felt it. This New York solar company felt like it was their duty.
Yeah, they preemptively acted.
I love how selectively enforced any of these mandates really were, though. Even in New York, a lot of government jobs in New York were handing out exemptions left and right, but they were forcing the private companies to have no quarter when it came to providing exemptions. I have a family member who works as an air traffic controller in New York City, and when I asked him about it, because people were trying to blame air traffic control shortages on flight delays and everything, he came back to me like, no, we have more staff now than we've ever had. We've had these delays have actually been going on for years. This one was a fluke that got messed up. That's why Southwest canceled 800 flights in a weekend.
Oh.
But he also then pointed out to me that he was the only one vaccinated in the entire air traffic control center. His fiance had made him get vaccinated, and he regretted it. But everyone else applied for a religious exemption, and under their religion and church listed the union local and got approved.
Wow.
Yeah, my buddy's a union electrician in Jersey too, and I think they did the same thing, and nobody gave him any hard time. So the enforcement of it is obviously. Luckily, I had accepted a job already, and I was out the door there, so I was able to kind of be the squeaky wheel, so to speak. Ultimately, I think it probably meant that, Tyler's the crazy guy moving to New Hampshire, and they were able to kind of dismiss what I was saying even more because of that, which kind of stinks, but.
Time will tell. My friends thought I was crazy 13, 14 years ago.
Well, I got two people jobs there. A lot of them
now are like, damn, I wish I'd listened to her about crypto.
Yeah, I felt bad.
Yeah.
My best friend, I got a job there, and he feels the same way as me. So, it was a career. We were both looking to stay there. It was a job worth having, so to speak, when it comes to money and things that you desire from a job. So, it was a bummer.
One of the great things about New Hampshire is you don't need to convince people of that. You don't have to feel like the only person.
One anecdote is I got a job and I'm at a warehouse of 12 dudes in a warehouse, and every one of them, I'm the new guy from New York, and the boss is a loud guy, so he kind of breaks everyone's balls and stuff. And
outside
every one of them. Why did you? Not many ovaries there. But,
outside ovaries.
Oh, outside ovaries. Why'd you move to New Hampshire? And I just said live free or die. And none of the people who aren't free staters, they're just people who live in New Hampshire and work at a warehouse with me, needed any explanation beyond that.
Yep.
Every one of them was like, yeah. That makes sense, and it was that simple, and I didn't have to tell anyone about getting fired at all. Nobody asked.
Right.
I was like, I wanted to move to New Hampshire. It's cool up here. Like,
actually, I love that. Okay, if I can make my queenly decree for the evening, I'm like, because sometimes people will ask when they move, right? Should I tell people I'm a free stater? Should I kind of keep it quiet? What? Should I get in with a secret handshake? And it's like, well, obviously, first of all, it's your personal preference, right? But then if you're trying to connect with people, I can't think of a faster, better, happier, nicer way to say you moved here than to say live free or die. You're absolutely 100% right, you guys, because that just resonates with everyone. I mean, it was like we were kind of arguing about this over the weekend. There were so many parties who couldn't even remember which one it was at. But, Sununu had posted a thing about the Pine Tree Rebellion, which is a celebration really of New England, right? And so people were piling in on him about that because we're mad at him for a myriad of other things where he is totally in the wrong. But I was like, someone saying, wait, there's a handshake? Hey, come to PorkFest to find out if there's a handshake.
If there's a handshake, yeah.
But I said, but here's something that we actually connect with him on, right? And so I think it's so important, we're new people coming into a place to find those moments of connection. So really, for anyone who's watching, who's like, oh, am I going to tell people or whatever? Just remember, no, we came for live free or die. That's why we're all here. We're not here to take over anything. We're here to expand the liberties that already exist here and to take things back to how they are supposed to be, which of course is that, we get to keep our own property. We believe in property rights and impersonal responsibility and helping your neighbors. So I love that the network has also helped with that. Will you guys pay it forward if people need to move?
We do have a tiny house, but yes, I my best friend from work moved.
Who also lost her job.
Who also lost her job
hospital.
together. Yeah, she just moved here with her family of 5, and then I have 2 other friends in New York who one is in the works with jobs with farming. If anybody has a good paying job in a farm for a skilled man. I've got the man for you. And then another one whose husband just accepted a job as a police officer up here. But yes, we will pay it forward. And
Sarah's a pretty good recruiter.
Yeah, no kidding. You've brought 10 new people. Awesome.
Well, the family with the 5 kids. Yeah.
So, but she found the Free State the same time as you did and mentioned it to me at work. And I was like, oh yeah, totally. My husband's really into that. She was like, "No way!" I was like,
"Found
yeah.
it."
They found it at the same time, and
started more discussing it.
From online videos,
I heard about it a long time ago from School Sucks, and I just remember him saying Free Coast. And the things they're doing in the Free Coast, and it was just in passing, and I just had to figure out what he was talking about because I wasn't
pirates and you
pirates and bank robbers, yes.
and he kept talking about them in such positive light of the awesome things they're doing down in the Free Coast or over in the Free Coast. Because I think he was living in New Hampshire at the time. The host,
Brett.
Yeah, and I was doing it because we had just had a kid, and I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and so I started listening to podcasts about schooling and unschooling and that, and found that, and so I had heard about it a really long time, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and always been in sort of the back of my mind. It's not that far from New York. Also, is a kind of nice. Far enough away.
It's not like when people move from Hawaii and it's okay, that is a actual significant change, right? So really, anyone who lives in New England who is a libertarian who is not in New Hampshire yet, I'm like, shame on you. That's ridiculous.
Don't worry about it. Just come on now.
I will say,
we'll all put you in our basement.
As someone who moved here
in a good way,
from Massachusetts. Yeah, as someone who I grew up in Massachusetts, and when I finally got done with the military, I had settled back in Massachusetts and then moved here from Massachusetts. It was one of the biggest moves of my life, and that includes Georgia and Texas and overseas. Massachusetts to New Hampshire was such a drastic and dramatic difference for me that I struggled to go back. My mom was asking me, she's like, "Are you coming down for Christmas this year?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's in Massachusetts." But friends you want to come out to Reno for a weekend? I'm like, let me check flights.
I hope your mom does not watch this show.
She knows, and she's also an anti-vaccine nurse in Massachusetts. So we're counting down the days till she's forced to move to New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
we'll help her move.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's really exciting. We were talking over the weekend that New Hampshire may really position itself as this health freedom state. That's not something we've been talking about a lot. We talk about crypto, we talk about homeschooling, but really there is an opportunity that's opening up now. Whenever you see something where there's a real push down on something, you see freedom flourishing too, right? So I think we could see a real flourishing in New Hampshire with both probably biotech, maybe people coming over from Massachusetts, but sort of doulas, just the private services of sort of the skill set people like you have starting to be done in cash-based clinics or crypto-based clinics, and really, leaning into that as New Hampshire becomes a destination then for people to come get those services that maybe you can't really get in other places anymore. I don't know if people would be as particular as saying, I would like a unvaccinated doula or a vaccinated doula, whatever that person's own medical decision is of who they want around them. Am I saying the word right? I hope. Doula?
Oh yeah, that's a
Doula?
real.
Okay.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
He smiled. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be one of those weird language barriers.
No, you got it.
I've never heard the word before, so
I know a lot about the birthing process. My wife.
Yeah, and well, and we want someone to have a baby at Porkfest. So if there are any mommies out there who are planning to come to Porkfest this year who want to maybe make that happen.
If you need a little help, I can totally help.
Hey,
I'll bring some towels.
You could have a whole clinic over there.
Well, actually, and people have to be careful. I'm sure there are, sort of like.
Deliver them.
Yeah,
Sorry, Carla. Go ahead. I was talking over you.
I'll create a crypto wallet just for that.
Right. So again, for people who are watching these things to really go, and we are getting feedback, and people are saying we are watching these, we have questions, or it's great to meet a couple that kind of looks like us or has a similar story. But I want people to be thinking aspirationally. We have such a massive opportunity really here, right? Like things are sort of crumbling, and everyone has this roadmap and this idea and passion. So really going, I'm good at this. I love it. You both said you loved your jobs. You saw a future in it. You were like, I fit in. I was the carrier between the different things. So mad skills, and then going, okay, how do I take those mad skills and work for myself to give value back to my community? And it's fun, it's cool, and it's not just that we have the people who are moving, we have all these people who are coming to visit. So we'll actually start to grow it out as we all grow our businesses. We'll still have customers, if we're doing that right, coming in to be like, hey, what does it look like? You tell me your story, right? And so
calendar.
So let's connect and let's think about those wellness centers. Like, I feel like there's this real health element that we can really start to pursue. And if there are investors who are listening who are like, oh, that sounds interesting, come to Porkfest, come talk to the people. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent moving here now.
There is, yeah. And healthcare is tricky because of the litigious side of it. And like Justin was saying with the insurance, but that's not even malpractice. And so I'm interested in working outside the system, but that also requires some self-reliant people that understand that childbirth is overwhelmingly successful. People live, and there's a lot of them through the ages, yet nature does not care about the individual. And that's a really hard thing for people to hear, because you're saying, oh, you don't care about me. It's like, yeah, but I care deeply about everyone, but tragedy does happen. And so healthcare is a really specifically difficult thing to do outside the system. Yeah, because you have to have people who are self-reliant and who understand the responsibility that comes and the consequence that possibly comes with taking responsibility for your own life and your own health and your own actions. So I'm super duper interested in that, but it's you gotta be.
It's scary.
Yeah, and who knows?
Well, and how much of that is due to government action in the past decade? Because I remember, I'm not that old. I'm only in my 30s, but I remember when I was a kid, there was independent doctors' offices. There was doctors in the town where I grew up in that did home visits, where people had their doctor that they went to on a regular basis, and that just doesn't exist anymore.
Well, not only that, it's when it comes to giving birth outside the system or other things like that. I don't think it's something you can necessarily convince people of. Kind of like I was saying,
not
about
already convinced,
right?
It comes from within,
almost like a personality type, right? They're either willing to accept responsibility for their own lives and their own livelihood, or they're not, and they're willing to do it the way that they think is natural, or whatever it is, or they'll only do it the approved way. And it's the approved way may be good, maybe bad, but the idea that I can't do it without having checked all the boxes, that's a certain personality type. And that's, like I said, going back to what I was saying about Tyler's job earlier, the beauty of being a libertarian in New Hampshire is you don't have to you don't have to walk around all week being like, man, I don't want to talk about this because you're going to turn into a whole thing. It might still with your friends, but it'll be a good thing. You'll be able to rant and rave about it.
I have a Porkfest magnet on my car every day that I've ever worked there. It's there. I don't hide it. If anyone wants to talk about it, they can talk about it. I just don't.
I have my PorkFest magnet on my car, and it's become a conversation piece at work at my new job, to the point where coworkers on like random weekend nights have sent me a picture of other PorkFest magnets they've found on cars in the wild. Says, "Do you know this person?" I'm like, "I don't know. Probably."
Yeah.
And it's cool because, like, in New York, you might have to hunt to find another person who like shares your values or your like a belief in self-responsibility and self-reliance, whatever it is. In New Hampshire, you really don't. And if you get plugged into the community, you never will.
I'm kind of a shy guy on some level, and I can't tell you how awesome the calendar is. It's like, I remember we were going to the first apple picking event, and we were like, how are we going to find people? And there's 3 people with yellow porcupine shirts walking down the hill in this giant group, and it was like, oh, hi, we're here for this. Oh, great, let's go. There was
no questions.
Zero
No questions asked. Yeah, come on in.
Where are you from?
A lot of tap rooms while Sarah was in New York, and I was up here by myself and had a blast with a bunch of people. And one guy had specifically asked me, as a new mover, what's the one thing we're missing, lacking? Like, he was asking for like honest criticism and kind of how to, expand the experience. And I said the calendar makes the experience infinitely expandable. If you move here and there's something not happening, you can very easily add it, and it happens like that, and it can instantly become the coolest day of your week. So it's really a neat function. The calendar is pretty radical.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And Chris does an amazing job sort of making sure it stays up to date. And it's so exciting because we're actually building our lives, right? So it's like you explain it, but then you're also like living it and experiencing it. And I was just thinking as you guys were talking, I remember maybe like 8 years ago, I had walked somewhere in Manchester and I ran into 2 porcupines like on the same walk. And I was like, oh my God, this is what it's going to be like. And now, honestly, if I leave the house in my neighborhood and I don't see another porcupine, so it's like, it's like, oh, wow. Like, it's not just, oh, it's community. It's like, because I traveled and lived all over the world too. I, didn't really ever have a place that I have felt like I belong. Like, that's part of it too, is when you find your tribe, you're like, oh, okay, I can actually just be myself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me tell you my crazy theories.
I remember a fun one.
And people tell me crazier ones.
I know. That's beautiful.
Back in 2019, it was like right before COVID. It was a non-election year. There wasn't really a lot going on for activism outside of legislative lobbying and stuff. Me and a couple of friends decided we were going to go try and film some man on the street interviews and stuff in downtown Manchester, and just stop strangers, ask them libertarian questions, leading questions, and like goad people into answers on camera for a YouTube video. And the first 2 people we stopped, like, they gave the most libertarian answers, and we're like, oh, well, there's no shock value here. And they're like, yeah, we're free staters. And then I'm like, damn it. And then the next couple I stopped, it was just a young couple who were walking around, like, taking pictures and doing touristy stuff. I'm like, oh, they're not even from here. Let's stop them. Stopped them. And they gave all the right answers. I'm like, what the heck? And the girl, she's like, yeah, we're from Virginia visiting. We're thinking about moving for the Free State Project. I'm like, what the like, yes, it's like those were the only people I could find willing to stop and do interviews on the street, were people who were us.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's actually also because people don't, if you don't have values or sort of a life philosophy, you honestly don't know what you think about a lot of things. I think we forget that, a lot of people just, if they don't have a guiding light, they're like, I don't know, what does the expert say on this, as we learned over the past 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a bit of that. I did want to circle back to one thing that you said, Sarah, about the medical stuff, and that you would definitely work outside the system. I think it's important for people to remember we have this nullification strategy that we can really start to introduce on a lot of different areas, right? So, and this is, now I have my, whatever hat that hat is, whatever hat I'm not supposed to be wearing, I'm not wearing. I fully disclaim these are my personal opinions, whatever. But that we can nullify, we can start to say New Hampshire is just simply going to nullify federal medical laws, right? Like, so we started with pot, but, people are looking at banking, some things in the energy sector, the guns. There was this brilliant bill that just came up. So definitely also when people are, kind of, hey, figuring out, I think for me, what I learned is instead of going, do I like business or do I like raising my children or teaching or whatever, it's kind of like, what subjects within that realm am I passionate about? And then maybe looking if you can even pull the through line, right? So it's kind of like, oh, I'm only going to review bills that have to do with this thing, and I will go testify on these bills, right? So it's easier than getting overwhelmed with like, I got so overwhelmed initially because I was like, oh, I'm going to do a little bit of everything. And it's like, there's a lot. So it becomes, oh, what are these things that I really, really care about that I can actually become a specific expert? Because it occurred to me the other day that I was up at Croydon with the Croydon budget folks over Passover, Easter, and they're going through a hard time right now. People are kind of mad at them and everything. But we were talking about how with the community, you can make it happen. So I'm so glad you guys are here. What was something that maybe, because I know we are running a little bit out of time, maybe something that was a challenge or something you're like, oh, I wish someone had told me this?
Well, what comes to mind is like, I'm not super into politics, but I love freedom, I love friends, and I love fun.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, that's what I've found here. And so, like, if you're not looking, I could think of one other F.
And you dropped one.
But I brought that with me. But
you can take the girl out of Jersey, but
wait, okay, I digress. So you don't have to be super into politics to make awesome friends in the Free State Project. And so it's not a thing that I wish I hadn't known. It's a thing that I came for. And then now that I'm here is happening, which is, I kept saying it to Tyler when we lived in New York, like, I'm so tired of swimming upstream. I just want to jump in and I want to I just go with the flow. And then here things are just simply easier. Like walking down the street, for example, is not an act of rebellion like it is in New York. And, like this. And so it's just been, I feel like I'm not swimming upstream. So like, hey guys, you don't swim upstream here. And you don't even have to be super political to have that comfort level.
And a lot of the events are based around political activism. So the fun things you're going to do are a Second Amendment rally we went to, and a health freedom rally we went to, and we met a family up there that aren't Free Staters that we see regularly. And so
that love freedom.
The things that are hard, the hardest thing was moving, and it was just the physical act of moving. Once we made that decision to move up here, not to sound like everything's candy and roses, but it was really easy.
No, that's that makes me really happy to hear. The moving part's hard, and I don't know if there are suggestions or way to make it. Just moving sucks. I mean, we were helping Yuri last week. He's a mover. He's an OG. He's been here a long time. He's an immigrant who came from Russia. He was in the LP in Russia and he had to flee. I believe he started with refugee status and then, became a citizen and like the whole process. Mm-hmm. And the rule is always you get one like move in, and then technically if you move in state, like you're not supposed to be able to ask for moves anymore, but we're a little loose, and we're a community. So obviously friends help friends move, but we just popped in and Louis and I were like, we think Yuri moved into that house when he was a bachelor and maybe he had a roommate and then he got married and he had 2 children. We showed up and we were like, dude, why is nothing packed? And he was like, I didn't realize we had this much stuff. It just,
it happens.
Accumulated.
And that's good advice for new movers. I felt uncomfortable accepting the moving party, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of begging, and I feel weird about it. But it was awesome, and it was done in a half hour. And the very first, so then it felt like the very first thing we did here was have a huge party in our house with a bunch of smiling faces, with pizza and beer and cider. And it was like, I was moved to tears at one point, just like looking around at the people in my house. I was like, these are my friends. And we just moved in. So do the moving party because they're awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because I helped you guys move, and I remember seeing Tyler around for a couple months, and then I had met you at the Tap Room Tuesdays.
Right? Does he really have a wife?
And it was it was a cold day. It was like wicked cold that day. It was one of the first like actual, I think below freezing days that we had.
It was cold,
and I would imagine you were thinking like, man, is anybody even show up? Right?
Like, yes, yeah. Like, oh, did I buy too much pizza?
3 people were early.
Yeah.
I showed up a little bit late, and there was almost nothing left to move. I was like 5-10 minutes late.
Yeah,
and it was like, okay, there's a quarter of the truck left.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. Magical. It was a really beautiful way to kind of welcome in the house and welcome in our New Hampshire experience. So
it was.
We have a lot of stuff left to do, and that's the thing is a lot of people maybe say don't burn out or don't just keep doing one thing over and over again. We have been selective. We don't do everything. We kind of want to slowly experience all the different stuff it has to offer and not.
And we have 3 kids that we need to bring to everything. So
yeah,
we pick the kid friendly stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if you have the kids and you're sort of on the homeschool track, it's just your social life with your children's life just becomes a it melds, and so you're just hanging out with parents who share your values, and the kids are being raised, and it's all it is all. What were the words you said? Sugar and glitter and something.
Oh yeah, right. It's not
candy and roses.
Candy and roses. It isn't all candy and roses. Of course, every rose has a thorn, but our trees make sugar.
They sure do.
Yeah, we really liked it. It's been pretty seamless.
So what are your plans going forward? What's next? Now that you're finally here, like you finally got your grasp of the calendar, grasp of the community, like what's something you want to do, you want to start to find your niche?
I mean, I'd love to go the healthcare route and have some kind of like grassroots birthy stuff. Not sure where that will be.
I know you're not the only one who'd be interested in that. I know you.
No, in fact, I'll circle back with you. I can introduce you to at least 3 that I know of.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, sounds like code for something. That's the secret handshake. Porcupine. Oh my God, that might be a real gang sign.
I know.
That was, don't throw me in jail.
Is that a knock at the
door? Wu-Tang.
That's not the Wu-Tang sign.
No, that. How does it go again? I used to know. I saw them at downtown.
So it's hard for me to say. We've achieved everything. We found great homeschool stuff for the kids. There's so many homeschool options here that we have to pick and choose between the ones that we want to spend money and time going to because there's only so many days in the week. So,
but I guess evolve though. Like we haven't reached like the pinnacle, the end. It's over. But
I'm saying like it's it was so easy to find the things that we were lacking or really longing for in New York. Mm-hmm. So now it's just kind of satisfied in a really unique way that we weren't for quite a while.
It's swimming with the current. So we want to just see where it goes and living. We're living free and thriving with our kids who have friends and
we made a conscious decision. We bought a 2-family house, so we have supplemental income, and Sarah's can be home with the kids. And that was a conscious choice we chose. We had a 2-family in New York. We obviously saw the financial benefit of all that. So, honestly, the goal is more wealth accumulation. I'm looking to buy something else right away and sit on my land.
Yeah. And again, I think the opportunities are here. New Hampshire is more expensive than it used to be, but still side to side with other states, it's not that expensive. If you're coming from a New York or a California or that kind of place,
it's so worth it.
And
Yeah.
it's worth it.
It's worth it. New York sucks.
But yeah, so that's probably my most immediate goal.
Yeah.
And then buy some firearms.
Yeah, right.
Nice. This is good. You're in the right place. buddy.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I mean,
Lose
maybe
some
just go
body
magnet fishing in the local boating hole.
See what happens. Yeah.
Metal
Yeah.
meter in my hand. Yeah, I'm down. I got some waders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's been real fun. You guys are fantastic, awesome. I love seeing you around the quill every week, Sarah, for the events. Tyler, it was great watching you play hockey. Like you'd barely been here, got involved politically by helping us beat the crap out of Republicans. That was great.
I was so happy that it was a close game. That's really all.
I was happy that it was a good game, and like my experience with hockey is always at a much higher level of hockey than just beer league rules. And so there was a point in the stands where I'm standing there screaming at the refs for calling something, and Sarah's like, "No, those are the rules." I'm like, this is bullshit.
We're old men, man. It's old man hockey.
I was very impressed, actually. I thought everyone skated pretty well. I thought it was going to be like one of those like embarrassing charity kind of things, but I was like, this is like watching a real game. It
The
was
little
pretty good.
14-year-old guy on our team was the best.
Yeah, he was good.
That kid was
right,
good.
and that's what I got the most mad at. He won a race to the blue line on an icing call, and I'm like, he won the line. It shouldn't have been an icing call, and they called it, and I started yelling.
I really hope they do that again.
Yes.
I've heard, and I
Won't
heard
happen.
that, you know, my Republican brethren are like, we're gonna pack the place, and we didn't realize,
it.
and we only had like
Oh,
4
good.
people there, and
Yeah,
so
my
I think
liver
it's
Prove
off. It's gonna
it.
be like
Prove
a thing.
That's
Hey,
a
well,
challenge.
Well, I hope people have found this informative. It's been really great to hear the insight you guys have had about your experience moving and visiting. And for anybody watching who hasn't come to make that visit, who's curious, check out fsp.org/visit New Hampshire. You can get plugged in. Chris will plug you in with all the right people to help you plan your vacation, plan your trip to come visit, get involved, check out some of the events on the calendar, and meet your friends. And if you're just getting here, check out the calendar. It is literally full. There is more to do than you could imagine all over the state. And as Carla mentioned, there was too many parties on Saturday. There was people arguing about what parties we should all go to on Saturday because we had too many different libertarian community centers hosting simultaneous parties. A market competition of libertarians. Who'd have thought?
We have 3 kids, and we went to 2 calendar events this weekend with all 3 of them. All family-friendly, awesome events.
It was awesome. Great weekend. Yeah.
Porkfest is coming up, so go get your Porkfest tickets.
We got
I don't know if they're sold out yet officially or unofficially, but there's not much room left on the campground either way. So make sure you check out porkfest.com and get your Porkfest tickets. And if you're planning your move, if you finally decided to make that jump, go sign up for the welcome wagon, get your moving party scheduled, and figure out when you're going to move in and meet your friends, meet your neighbors, and find your forever home. So it was great. It's been awesome. In anybody else, Carla, anything to plug? Bill, anything to plug?
I got nothing.
No, you know me. Just go out there and live free and thrive.
Tyler and Sarah, any final thoughts you want to leave people with?
Live free and thrive.
Yeah, I can't plug that calendar enough. To me, it's so radical. It's so cool that anybody puts an event on there, and I have an appeal to go to all of them. It's neat. It's really cool.
All right,
come visit.
Come visit.
Until you do, and until next time, everybody, live free. Thank you.
Live free or die. Don't let the freedom pass you by. Stand up proud and strong and lead this country on. Live free or die, from the village green to the mountainside. Yankee voices sing the song of liberty.
In 1623, she touched the hand of history and led the colonies on. Independence was won, and the spirit lives today to guide America on her way. New Hampshire standing free, the home of liberty.